Okay, let's get started if we can. It's it's a couple minutes after 4. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got seven folks online. If you want to, I think we've got the bandwidth. You can turn your cameras on, but definitely when you're speaking, please turn your camera on, just out of courtesy, so they don't think you're talking behind a curtain or something. So today we're focusing on one issue, which is the STEP program, and I'm going to call this. I'm going to make a few announcements. I think we have a quorum. Is that right, Ann?
I think we should do an official roll
Yeah,
call today.
call it.
All right. So we start with you, Reed Williams,
Here.
John Agather,
Here.
Anaqua Garcia,
Here.
Councilwoman Villagran, Peter Ononfre, Andy Castillo,
Here.
Al Rodriguez,
Here.
Michael Kinnick, Anna Marie, Jack Hebden, Wayne Eddington, Tony Edwards, Michael Sanchez, Didi Belmaris, Kurt.
I see him.
I see him.
Kurt.
Kurt. Dr. Femi.
Here. Sorry, I was muted. Here.
Thank you. Dana McGinnis, Jim Berg. He's out of the country. Anita Ledbetter.
Here.
And Dr. Cantu.
Here.
We definitely have a quorum, Reed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody attending in person or getting online here today. This is going to be an important meeting. I appreciate you making a second meeting this month. Couple of just housekeeping. What we've got on the agenda, as you saw, we're going to have Rick give us a short presentation on the program. Then we'll go into comments and discussions. There's 2 ways we can do this, and it's your choice. When you talk, it comes your time, and I will call it. And I finally figured out what this order is that Ann uses. It is the order by the council districts, and then it is by the trustees. And obviously, Dr. Cantu and I are bringing up the end. So that's the order, because I've been asked that question because some people wanted to go earlier than others, and that's the order. On top of that, if when you speak, you want to give your position, one of the 4 positions, you can give it then. If you want to wait until you've heard all the discussions and questions, you can do that. We'll keep track of that. I think we can keep up with that. So there's one person that is out of the country that could not get connectivity that sent me a text on his position. I don't have a problem with including that, but that is an exception to what we typically do. So I will ask if there's any objection to that. He can't get online. He's overseas. So plus it's the middle of the night there. So let's I'll add that, and that's Jim Berg's. I will read his comment right before or when it comes his turn to speak. I will read his comment for him. I think that's all the housekeeping. So let's go ahead and have the invocation. Jonathan, if you would, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So join me in prayer. We thank you for your many blessings you have freely given to each of us. We ask for your presence to guide this meeting of the CPS Energy Rate Advisory Committee. Provide them with the knowledge, compassion, and wise counsel needed as they discuss the business matters on today's agenda. Help us all to remember that we are stewards acting on behalf of our customers, and provide us with the grace to serve all people well. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, Ann, do we have public input? All right, no public input. Rick, you're on.
All right, good afternoon, members of the RAC. So it's a pleasure to be back today in front of you to talk about the program, bring you up to date on the options as we're presenting, and then answer any questions you might have. So there's a number of documents on your table there. One is a copy of the presentation, and the other is a document of frequently asked questions. These are questions that either members of the RAC or other folks that we've engaged with have asked, and we thought it might be helpful to have those in writing. So we've put those there for you to consider. Okay, so we're going to talk about how we got to today. The road that we have traveled over the last several months and really over the last several years to get here. We're going to talk about stakeholder engagement and how we are asking the groups to weigh in on a recommendation ultimately to our board and what that path looks like. And then we'll get into the details of the three options that we're presenting today, the three program options. Of course, you also have the option to say, your fourth option of saying, I don't support continuing the program. And then we'll request we'll request your feedback and of course, as Reed mentioned, the vote later in the meeting. So that's the agenda. We've shown this slide before. This is the timeline. We of course started this conversation back in February when we presented to our board and presented a report to them from the Brattle Group about their perspectives on the program. Since then, we've been back to the board, I guess 3 times now. We'll be back in front of the board on May 23rd to present options to them for their consideration. In the meantime, of course, we've also been in front of the RAC. We've been in front of the CAC. They met last week and followed a very similar process of voting on a recommendation. So all of this is laid out here in this roadmap. So what happens next? Again, the board meets on May 23rd. Depending on the outcome of that, if we get a positive outcome, then consequently we're on the agenda we would be on the agenda at the City Council on June 16th. That's the date that we're targeting. Once again, the current authority expires July 31st. So if there was no action, if there was no support to continue, then the programs would end on July 31st. Oh, we may have a dead mouse here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I mentioned, the road to today, how we got here. And we put together this slide really to highlight the fact that, it's really been a 3-year process. August of 2019 is when we achieved the original STEP goal. We had a big announcement about that. We were at a board meeting and there was a lot of fanfare around that. Since then, of course, that was a year early. And so we went to City Council, we went to our board and City Council, and we got an extension. This was back in January of 2020. We got a 1-year extension of the program to allow us to gather stakeholder feedback, bring back a recommendation. Of course, COVID got in the way. So we subsequently asked for another extension, which was an 18-month extension, which was back in January of 2021. Along the way, we've had 2 assessments done of the program. The first one was actually required under the ordinance, the original ordinance. There was a requirement in there to bring a recommendation forward, a report, an assessment forward 6 months before the end of the program. And so we did that. We engaged a group called ICF, and that's the box there. And that was a report they delivered to us about whether these programs made sense, whether we had achieved the original goals, and whether we should continue, which was a recommendation to continue. And then, of course, that we brought the Brattle Group in later to do a second assessment that we delivered to the board in February. So lots of study has gone into this. We've also launched an RFP back in the summer of 2021. Where we were looking for ideas and proposals for new technology, new innovations that would fold into a potential future program. When we had, some 60+ responses from vendors who had ideas that they wanted us or wanted to propose to us to incorporate. So all of this to say that lots of information has been gathered, lots of data has been gathered that gives us confidence that we know what we need to know to move forward on a recommendation. So, and then subsequently we kicked off the discussions in February, and which leads us to today. So in total, 3 years of activity, 3 years of thinking and engaging with stakeholders to get to where we are now. So I mentioned earlier, how we're using stakeholder feedback, how we're asking you to weigh in on these recommendations. We have of course been here. We were here last year talking about the program in pretty deep depth, talking about how the programs work, how we fund them, how much we've spent historically. It was a big thick packet of information we shared back last summer in 2 different sessions, and subsequently came back 3 times this year to talk about the program. We followed a similar process with the Citizens Advisory Committee. We've been frequently in front of them. Here most recently, we've been in front of them the last 3 months. And again, they did vote on a recommendation at their meeting last week, just like we're asking you to do. And the City Council, we have been in front of the City Council in April. We presented the options to them at the Municipal Utilities Committee. And then we've been having one-on-ones with City Council members over the last 3 weeks to get their perspective, their feedback on the program. And so transitioning now to what the options are. When we were here last month, we presented 2 options to you. One was a $50 million a year option. One was a $70 million a year option. The intent with the $50 million, as you'll recall, was to build in some rate relief. So a scenario where we could provide comprehensive programs, but at a lower cost than what we do today, that would save customers in terms of bill impact $1 a month. And so that was the $50 million scenario. And then we had an option 2, which was a $70 million scenario, which is comparable to what we have been spending, which is what is baked into our rate views and the views that we shared during the rate discussion earlier this year. And then when we presented them to the board, they asked us to create a 3rd option, to come back with a $100 million option that was more aggressive. Again, comprehensive, met many of the same goals, but could do more, hit bigger targets. And so we've put together a 3rd scenario that you have not seen before today, that had, again, had more aggressive options. You may recall this slide where we talked about, okay, we have goals. How do we achieve goals? How do we design programs to achieve goals? The purpose here in showing you this today again is option 3 is, as I was saying, is a lot like option 2, but really, again, it's comprehensive. It has a mix of existing programs and new programs, but we wanted to put the plus signs there just to indicate that we can do more, right? Obviously, the bigger the program, the more funding, you can do more and bigger programs. And so just wanted to give you a view of how they compare across the board. But really, this is probably more meaningful because, we've put together estimated budgets and we've shown you these. So you can see, how we think about how we allocate the dollars. Of course, these are estimates in terms of using our judgment, using historical performance information, what we project things will cost in the future. Things will evolve. We've talked about how things change. And so these dollar numbers may change, but at least it indicates to you how we're thinking about it and how we will start. And then of course, we may evolve from there as we learn more. But what you'll see is, across the board, weatherization heavily funded at a very significant scale, even more so in the 3rd option. Demand response, again, one of the foundational programs, well funded across the board in all scenarios. Where we've taken a little more discretion in the smaller scenario is to scale back some of our energy efficiency work. In option 2 and 3, we sort of bring those back to more like full scale, being that there are more available dollars to do so. And then you'll notice on the very top part, which is new program opportunities, really we can do a lot with option 2. Option 3, of course, you can do even more new programs, things like what we showed on the previous slide, multifamily weatherization, targeted low-income programs, educational behavioral programs, electric vehicle charging programs, and non-traditional solar options and battery storage. So that's what makes up, that new program category up there on top. And so we've shown outcomes. These are projections of goals that can be achieved with these budget allocations. Again, you've seen option 1 and option 2, no changes there. Those numbers are the same as you saw last month. What we've created here with option 3, again, is goals of 565 megawatts of incremental demand reduction. So think of that as generation capacity that can be offset through these programs, through reductions and energy savings, or reductions in energy usage by customers. Energy savings, 1.3%. That's energy savings as a percentage of our overall sales. So if you think about, the millions of kilowatt hours that make up our retail sales, what we're saying is that we can reduce 1.3% off of what would otherwise have been our sales, and that's every year. So it's 1.3% this year, 1.3% next year, and so it sort of cascades and really does become a very large number. And then equity, again, we're showing number of single-family homes that can be weatherized, and then multifamily units that can be weatherized. These are individual units. Typically, a complex might have 50 or 100 units. And so what we're quantifying here is the units. The idea is we would weatherize we would try to weatherize an entire complex at one time. Each unit would count as one, right? So we're not counting complexes, we're counting the individual units. Okay, and then speaking to the impact of these programs and outcomes, what we're showing here is an update. Again, option 1 and option 2 are the same as what you saw last month, which is the bill impact at the very top. For option 3, that is $5 a month. And so again, today we have baked in $3.50 roughly into our rate calculations, into our assumptions, budgets, and so forth. So $5 would represent an incremental add of $1.50. That would show up on customer bills in a year, roughly a year from now, because you may recall we expend the funds, we go through a verification process, and then once it's been validated, then we can begin the recovery. So it would not begin immediately. It would begin at least a year from now once the validation is complete. So you would see the $1.50 impact at that point going forward. Now that's the immediate impact, which is the cost, the bill impact. But we've talked before about, we designed these programs over their lifetime to actually return have a positive ROI, right? To be cost effective in the sense that the cost savings, the capacity savings, the fuel savings, the transmission savings will more than offset the cost of the programs. And so what we're showing here is under the system benefits is what those lifetime values are as compared to the cost of the program. So for option 3, what we're saying is we believe we would target to return $950 million in benefits on the $500 million investment. So almost 2-to-1 benefit there. And then on the last row there, we showed the emissions reductions from not having to generate the energy. There's a direct correlation. If you don't generate the energy, there's an emissions savings. And so we use factors that are specific to CPS to calculate these numbers. And we've converted those to tons of avoided carbon. And so you can see for option 3, it's 2.2 million tons of avoided carbon. That's over the 5-year period that is encompassed here. And so just to that point, this is my last slide on the options. What we're talking about is a 5-year program. The numbers that we've shown is based on a 5-year program. That's our recommendation in terms of the allowing for flexibility, allowing for programs to have enough runway to grow, to prove themselves, but still allow for some flexibility and an ability to transition. And in fact, we're proposing to have a formal 3-year check-in so that we can come back formally to the board and the council and make sure that we're still on the right track, that we, if we want to make an adjustments to programs, goals, so forth, that's our opportunity to weigh in and do that. We did not have anything like that in the original program. We think it's a feature that just builds in even more flexibility. What would continue and what we propose to continue is all of the accountability procedures that are built in. These are specified in the ordinance. It basically says that we have to report on program performance by program. We've got to, demonstrate or show where the rebate dollars are going, break those down by district, by customer class, rate class, and all of that is contained in quarterly reports. And then at the end of every year, we bring in a third party to do a formal evaluation of the program, verify the savings before the savings that we claim, make sure that those are accurate, and then produce a report that we turn into the city. It's only after the city accepts that report that we're able to then recapture the expenses for the prior year. So we think that process has worked well. We would propose to continue that. Last thing I'll mention is all of that is public information. We post it. It's on the city's website. Anyone can go back there. It's there since the very beginning. And we propose to continue to do exactly that. So this is my last slide. Reed asked us to show a recommendation slide. What we're saying here is, we believe there is value in these programs, both from a customer perspective in promoting affordability, helping customers manage their bills, have information on their usage, be able to take action on that. So there's a customer benefit, there's a utility benefit, and so we think that it's worth continuing. There's an economic benefit to the community, and all of that's been quantified in the reports that we have produced. We believe we should state goals in terms of demand reduction, adding goals for energy savings, which would be new, adding a goal for energy savings, and then having goals around weatherization and how many homes we can achieve from an equity perspective. Again, all of the options would include a check-in at year 3, and then we would continue to produce the annual reports and have all the same accountability procedures that we've had up to now. So with that, again, there are 3 options we're presenting. I'll turn it back over to Reed. We understand there's a 4th option, which is not to continue the program, and so we want to make sure that we capture that on here. So thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, let me go back over this again. There's actually 3 options on the 4th, and there's 3 others. This was correct for the CAC, but this is not the way the vote's set up on our agenda. So let's be careful. We can take that down now. There we go. All right. So if you look at our agenda, we're looking at discontinue the program, do not replace. In other words, hard stop. The second one is suspend the program, the current program, but continue to study. The third one is extend the program. Okay, so instead of suspending, you kind of keep going on with the old program some way, and you study. Okay, in other words, we're not the first choice, which is a dead stop. The 4th one is adopt one of the 3 new programs that Rick just presented. Okay, so it's not one of the 3 or nothing, because I've talked to several people and they've said, look, we like energy conservation demand management, but we are not comfortable with one of these 3 options, and we're not comfortable just saying never again, no more. Okay, so that's what we're on. Couple of things Also, Councilwoman Anna Sandoval has joined us. She's our liaison with the council. Let's see. Yeah, back there in the back. All right, sorry, I didn't see you come in. Dr. Romero is teaching today, so unfortunately, she won't be able to attend, but she'll catch up on this. All right, the order. Hold on. John Agather is first to speak. Everybody, please remember and be respectful. I think we have plenty of time, but the first time around, let's try to keep it to 2 minutes, okay? I know that's a short period of time, but let's try to keep it to 2 minutes, and then if we have time, we'll go back around, okay? John, you're on.
Real quickly, I vote to suspend, and so we can examine this a little bit more. My only observation of this is I didn't realize that we were going to have a vote on this coming up. Is there a way that we can telegraph these things, a month or two ahead of time so that we know what we're aiming toward? I'm having the feeling a little bit here like this is again like when the CPS management went to city council asking for a rate increase before we'd even had a chance to discuss it. And I also am asking that we set aside time where we as the RAC members can just talk amongst ourselves about these issues and let us actually try to formulate some sort of a recommendation rather than this kind of shoving down, being lectured to all the time without having much of an ability to really just freeform discuss it amongst ourselves. That's all I have to say. So I vote for suspension.
Okay, suspend and continue to evaluate. Is that what you're saying? Where'd he go?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Yeah, look, I don't see this as much as a vote, as this is a way to poll people, okay? Give us your opinion. Remember, we don't have any power, we don't have any authority. We're just here to give people our opinion. And that's what we're trying to do. So the best way, I guess, to say it is we're trying to inform people of what, not collectively as a body, but individually as a member. I've made that point as many times as I can here and to the board. We don't work or exercise as a body. We work and exercise as individuals, because I assure you, we got 21 individuals, okay? The next person is Anakwa Garcia.
Hi. I am reluctantly supporting option number 2. And this is after meetings with the District 2 office and of the commitments that Jalen has made to the community, and with concerns regarding bill shock, and of the percentage that's actually going to the LMI community, which I am a part of as well. I am supporting option 2.
The vote is option 2, which is suspend and continue to study.
I'm sorry. No. My choice is the second to last option with regards to the 3 options.
It's extend the existing program and continue to study.
No, the 17 million.
70 million.
70 million.
Okay. Now, I apologize. We just have to keep, because I got a cheat sheet here and unfortunately y'all don't have it, but it's on the agenda. So it's option 4B. Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Villagran, I don't think is on, and it probably would be out of order for her to be polled on this right now. Peter? Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you, Reed. Thank you, Rick, for the presentation. And with my 2 minutes, I wanted to ask a few questions. And if I can't get to the vote, I'd like to vote at the end if I can come back around. But I've got some questions for you, Rick, based on, first, I want to congratulate CPS for the successful program. Arguably, the aggressive way in which you invested in energy efficiency over the past 12 years has proven to be to have produced an excellent rate of return. The capacity savings achieved by the program allowed it to meet its objective of not needing to build another power plant. I'd also like to thank all the CPS staff and consultants that have been evaluating the program and preparing the recommendations that we're voting on today. I believe that the STEP program has proven to be an energy efficiency strategy that merits our investment. And my challenge today is where a restructured program will prioritize our investments. Although the exclusive LMI program is not practical today, I pray we structure a program that makes them or the LMI community a priority. So my question, Rick, is based on and I would like to ask all 3 questions, and then if you can just kind of go down and provide answers for them, if we could. Well, the LMI customer, LMI customer. Low to moderate income. So based on the current type of programs and funding allocations presented on slide 8, we can go to slide 8, please. Can you explain which program in option 2 will LMI customers have legitimate access to, and how do you plan to market the program to them? That's the first question. The second, can you explain what flexibility you have to reallocate funding from one program category to another during the 5-year term, and what percentage of the projected investment can be dedicated exclusively to LMI customers? And the third is, can you provide the percentage of current program investment in LMI customers and the projected investment in LMI customers in option 2, the comparison of what we're doing now and what is projected in the plan? And I believe it's important to quantify and project investments in our LMI customer base, ultimately measure the ROI, and qualify the program as one that is effective and focused on LMI customers.
Thank you for the question, Peter. So I will, if we can go to slide 16, I think that might be the right place to start on your question. You asked, how much have we dedicated to low-income programs? And if you look on the left-hand side, these are the dollars spent over the previous 12 years. And so our low-income program has been weatherization. And we've spent 16% of the overall funds on that program. And sorry to make you jump around, but if you go to the document that we handed out that has some frequently asked questions, the very first page, there's a table where we show the breakdown for each of the options. And so we've put in the percentage, the share of the budget that we are estimating would be allocated to low-income programs. So you can see that for option 1, it's 36%. Option 2 is what is it, 28, and then it goes down to 23% on option 3. So that I think it directly addresses your question, and you'll see compared to where we have been historically, it's more, right? It's a higher percentage. Well, how is that? Partly it's because the weatherization program continues to be funded heavily in all of the scenarios. But on top of that, we've layered in multifamily weatherization, a targeted retail discount program, which would be things like light bulb discounts, window air conditioning discounts that would be targeted to low-income areas to encourage customers to buy more efficient equipment. And then we have non-traditional solar layered in as solar programs that could be targeted to lower income customers. So that's how we get to the higher percentages in these scenarios.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, and this is one of my concerns. So in the Q&A that y'all sent us, y'all listed, let's see, for, the percentages, targeted LMI, retail rebates, non-traditional solar. But on the program design, those are listed as potential new programs. So when
Right.
when I see potential, that may or may not happen. So, but on your Q&A, you make it seem that like this is actually going to happen. It's somehow in like, how much are those rebates, for example? So I think what's on the presentation and what you have in your Q&A don't match.
So we list them here. So we've shown these categories before, right?
Right.
So these are category of programs. Now, there could be multiple programs that are non-traditional solar. There could be multiple programs that are behavioral. I mean, the details, you're right, the details of how much the rebate and that is to be worked out, right? What we're trying to show is allocations to categories of programs, and then we will create programs to match the intent of
Okay.
those designs.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Peter.
And so just
And
on that,
can I just add something to Rick's response, Peter? I think we can do more in terms of the per household investment that we're making. In other words, the residential energy efficiency program requires personal investment, to access the rebate. You're going to install a new air conditioner that's above the kind of the normal SEER that you're going to get on the market. So we're going to incentivize that. I think we've spent traditionally about $4,000, $4,500 a household. I think we can actually increase that investment on a per household basis, which would actually drive that number up more. But to Rick's point, once we get some general feedback and direction from the board, from you all, from city council, we'll go back in and actually, get the marketing material together on how we're going to recruit customers, list out what the program looks like. And then, as we start marketing it, and then we'll go back to the municipal utility committee, to this group and to the board and show them, here's what that, what the firm programs look like. So there's work to be done once we get some general direction that we'll have to come back for. But I think we can do more on a per household basis within the Casa Verde program that will not require as much investment through the residential energy efficiency program for low-income customers. Okay, so I just think it's an opportunity to do more within weatherization than we're doing right now that will drive these numbers up a bit.
thank you, Rudy, and that kind of speaks to how we're going to market it. I know we didn't get into that, but I appreciate that there's the flexibility to keep growing it. It's supply and demand. I understand that. I just wanted to be sure we had the flexibility to continue to add. But if it's a supply and demand, I would just offer this last recommendation that, considering the current federal infrastructure funding available, that you consider a restructure program that would be a partnership, a collaborative pilot weatherization program that includes demand response management in partnership with the city's Office of Sustainability. I just share that as part of a solution to reach that LMI customer through a separate partnership that is focused on, because many of the councilmen have said they want a targeted weatherization program. And you have to, obviously, we all know that. We have to go to where they live and to get them to commit to it. So just wanted to share that as an option. I'm in full support of however I can help. If this goes forward, I'm all in to help with that. That's all. Sorry about the time going long.
That's fine.
Reed, excuse me, right here. I had a general question that I think would apply to the conversation going forward, if I could just add.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, the multifamily units. Can you explain that to me? I know those are apartments, apartment complexes, individual apartments. What are you speaking to when you say multifamily units weatherized?
So we are speaking, so when we say multifamily units weatherized, we are referring to, again, we may have a complex with 100 units. When we say, our goal would be to come in and weatherize, if the property qualifies, to weatherize all of the units if we could. So if there's 100 units, then that's 100 units, right? We would count the individual units that would go through the program.
So the complex has to qualify, not the individual customers within the complex, which would be the people in the apartments.
So we actually address that in the document here, and I can point you to.
Please, because I didn't see it.
1 second here. That's a question that we've had about the qualification criteria. Number
9 on the FAQs. I
So
hadn't
there,
got
there
it
you
all.
go. And so what we're saying here, so there could be multiple pathways. One is if the housing is operated by a 501c3 organization as low-income housing, then that could be one pathway to qualify. Alternatively, we can set criteria based on the percentage of individuals who live there who are either on subsidized housing or who receive some form of low-income assistance. So we've borrowed this concept from another utility that runs a similar program, which I think, is a good place to start. So that's how we're thinking about that.
It is, thank you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I couldn't imagine that you were talking individual customers, but I wanted a clarification.
No,
Thank you. Thank you, Reed.
Sure. Okay, Andy, you're next. I think you're online. Andy, could you turn on your video and speaker?
Okay, can you hear me?
There you go. Got you.
Okay. I am going for the extended and continue the program. I am worried that this will affect some of the poorest of the community, but I believe that the investment in those properties, in those homes, will outweigh the fee that people would have to pay. Just like we just heard, if one person that can get into this program and weatherize their home for $4,500 for $1 a month investment in their bill, that's $4,500 that they didn't have to do this in the first place. Even just being able to get a digital thermostat from CPS, which easily can be from $60 to a Nest being $200, and getting a rebate to help pay for that, I believe outweighs the $1 to $1.50 amount that people will have to pay for the program. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you for your time.
Andy, let me make sure I've got your, I guess this is more of a poll, your poll position, and that is to extend the current program as we are and study it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think they said it's around 45 or 50, somewhere in there, or I don't know, I can't remember. I think is that.
$70 million.
Yeah, but the last year or so, it's been a little less. I don't know, maybe I don't remember that right, but
Well,
I
it
thought
would
it
be,
come-
well, because it's running out in July, it'd be half for this year.
it's even less than, okay, I was talking about 21. In 21, it was 70?
Yeah, it was lower because of COVID, so it
Yeah.
was a little bit lower.
Yeah,
investment.
that's what I remember. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Used to be $70 million a year. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what they propose it to be now, but
Well, they hadn't proposed anything because this is another option we're looking at asking them to consider. It's a poll, okay? So I don't know what it's going to be.
Rudy,
So I believe we have it at $70 million, which is what, the annual spend typically has been for STEP.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Rudy. Okay, next up is Al Rodriguez. Al's already on. Go, buddy.
All right. I'm going to suspend and study. And I reluctantly do that, but that multifamily really bothers me quite a bit. If we could remove that, then I'd say go ahead and fund it. But I'm not sold on the multifamily. It seems like we're just subsidizing corporate housing. if we're going to support 501c3s, maybe the city could adopt the program and carry it on there. Excuse me. But for now, because of the multifamily housing, I'm going to say suspend and study, and maybe it'll come back. Maybe we can do some clarification and bring it back again. I yield my time.
Thank you, Al. Okay, Michael, you're next. Kennick.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to say, I'm definitely in favor of these types of programs. We need to continue with energy efficiency and conservation programs. I certainly wouldn't want to scrap it altogether. But we do need to be looking at some things. One, as Peter keeps saying, and I totally agree, is we need to make sure we're prioritizing the equity issues with the LMI community. I think that's important. But we also need to be looking at where we're spending this money as far as return on investment and figuring out which of the programs really have the best return on investment. I get the feeling like we're just still sort of peanut butter spreading some of these investments across all these programs instead of figuring out where we get the most bang for our buck. I know I personally like the demand management programs with the thermostats. I suspect we get a lot of bang for our buck there, but I think that's an excellent program I'd like to see continued. On slide 10, where we're looking at the costs and the system benefits, I still want to better understand these system benefits. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here. This time we're calling them system benefits, but in the fine print down below, it says it's based on a UCT of 1.9. And we know that the UTC is that a combination of benefits to the customer and benefits to CPS. And I keep asking, and Rudy, you told me last month that you were going to get me more information, and I haven't seen it yet. Okay. Wish it would have been briefed then. I'll take a closer look at those things, but I'd like to know roughly how much CPS is benefiting versus how much the customers benefit. So if you say those numbers are in that sheet, I'll take a look. Or is it just a rough explanation of my
This
question?
number is a system benefit to the whole system. It is not an individual customer benefit. So again, each program will have its own benefit based on how the customer uses it. We can walk you through those one-on-one, Michael. I understand what you're asking for. This is the benefit to the CPS Energy system as a whole. That's what these numbers represent. It's not individual customer benefit. It's system benefit.
But what you're calling system benefit is your calculation for UTC, correct?
It's not spending money to buy more coal or gas. It's not spending money to build new power plants. It's not spending money, when we're growing at 2% and load growth is only 1%, that has a positive economic impact on the entire system. So it's those kind of calculations that, lead to the 1.9. And I wasn't able to say why I brought all this information in today. Every one of those books on an annual basis lays out which program, how each program, benefits in terms of the contribution back to the whole. This is the whole. Each of those verification reports includes a program by program breakdown of, what the return on investment is. So, again, there's nothing left to study. All of this information, we work through our regulator to validate whether or not we can recover costs or not, and it's on a system-wide basis. So I know you feel like you're not getting your question answered, but the information is there. It's all there. Our program is well documented in terms of why we're doing it, and so I guess my feedback to the committee would be, if you just don't agree with how we've done it, I get that. But, the system was set up to say, when they gave us a goal, they said, we're going to approve STEP and and the goal is going to be 771 megawatts. And we can think we can do that for, about $800 million, and we think that'll take us 10 years. That was the direction given to the organization as to what the goal was. We achieved that ahead of schedule and under the $800 million or so that we said it was going to cost. If so agreeing that those weren't good goals, I get that. If that's your perspective, I'm not going to argue that point, but that's what we set out to achieve. And the city has agreed that we've done that.
We can discuss it more later then. Okay. Anyhow, that's all I have right now. I'll make my vote after I hear the rest of the members.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Anne Marie?
Thank you, Rudy, for that explanation again, because that's one of the things I hear is that we kind of get lost between individual impact and overall system impact that we all benefit from, right? And that's, it's kind of like you get lost, can't see the forest for the trees, right? So my focus is at that level, that higher level that comes down to benefit everybody else if we're not having to build another plant, if we're not having to increase usage. As the example was given, if our population, it goes up 2% and we're only impacted at 1%, that's a gain. That's a gain. I am bothered by the multifamily units weatherization also. I understand that they'd have to qualify, the owner of the complex would have to qualify, but I'm still a little uncomfortable with that. I think that is something that could be better absorbed by the owner of those units, maybe through construction with code compliance. I've lived in apartments here where there was nothing in the walls. I get that. But I also feel that I don't know if better is the right word, but the more rounded impact would be for our low and middle income folks that are in homes. And I know there's a lot of people in apartments. I get that too, but I really think that can be handled another way. I would go for one of these options if you don't, when you see here, look at the numbers. I mean, option one, 1,600 homes, 10,400 apartments, 16,000 homes in 2, 20,000 apartments, 18,000 in 3, 30,000 apartments. It's the apartment number that jumps exponentially. I'd rather see the homes. So I'm going to withhold my vote too till the end to hear more conversation.
And Marie,
My poll response, not vote.
can I just weigh in just a bit? The reason we added multifamily is because in our community, very few of, a lot of our low income customers, may not even own their own home. A lot of them rent. More of them are in multifamily. So if you want to truly scale up on the direct assistance that you can provide to low income families, a lot of them are in apartments. And so we added that in response to that request of us to try to broaden the reach into the low and moderate income community. We got most of our, quite frankly, most of our low and moderate income are renters, whether that's single family or in apartments or condos or whatever, they're renters. So that's why we did it that way.
Thank you, Rudy. And I agree with that, that would make a lot more sense. Go ahead, Wayne.
I'm hearing the comments about the multifamily, and it's really scared me to death, I'll be honest with you. Landlords in general are not paying the utilities. Who you think is paying the utilities? The people living in the units, and those are the people that's going to benefit it. When someone comes to me to ask to rent a unit, they don't ask me what the utilities are or if you're going to sell it, or what the utilities are and all this type of stuff. But I've talked to many folks over the last 10, 15 years. They have window units, they have no insulation, $350 for 800 square foot units, what they're paying. So in general, the landlords are not paying it. I tried that one time, and the utilities were set at 68 degrees, 68 degrees, every fan, every light was on. I would never do it again. So the landlords are not paying the utilities. You keep talking about saving stuff for the low income. Those are the people that's paying the utilities in the apartments. And if they had money, yeah, they could get a house and stuff, but part of the reason they don't have a house because they don't have the money. So the winterization is not going to increase my sale value. If I want to sell it, it's not going to make, okay, look, it's winterized, I'm going to charge you extra $300 a month. I don't get any of those benefits. The person that benefits is the person that's living in the unit that's paying the utilities stuff. So
Thank you.
that's my experience with items. And if we're talking about helping lower income, this is helping them. And I'm gonna tell you, I know it's not my time yet, but this little $5 a month, we didn't meet the emissions a couple of months ago here in the city. Go out to California and go get your car inspected. It won't be $7. It's gonna be $150 to $200 because you're gonna have to do smog checks. And then when it doesn't pass, now you're talking about $1,000 to $3,000 to get your catalytic converter fixed so you can drive your car. So now let's put that on the low income person also. $5 is a bargain. And I just got back from Alaska. I was up there 10 years ago. I saw the glacier, 1.5 miles wide, 150 feet tall. Almost in tears last week. You could barely even see it. So is carbon doing it? I don't know. The scientists say they are. I can attest. I've seen it with my own eyes. And I can attest dealing with the tenants and everything since probably about 2004 here. So this is what's going on. So you keep concentrating, you're thinking that the landlords are getting all this benefit and glory and so on. I'm telling you, it's not happening. The people that's paying the utilities are the people that's renting the property. So you're going to save them property. My rent's not going to go up or down because of the utilities. But they are the ones that get a chance to get their utilities reduced so they can have more money to do other things with. And so I'm going to tell you, this option 3, this $5 option, that's a bargain for everybody, not just low income, but everybody in this room. Now, I drive a Tesla. I'm not going to have to worry about no small check. Well, y'all paying $180 to get your car fixed and getting your catalytic converter replaced and so on. So it's a much bigger picture here than what we're trying to do. And if we're really trying to help everybody, low income is what I've been hearing about. I can afford it. But low income, this is what you're talking about. And so if you don't do that, you're saying it's okay for their utility bill to be up here. Instead of us doing something for $5 a month to bring the utility down to give them more money to do other things. So if you're really concerned about them, look at the whole picture. You're going to save the renter money by doing this here. You're going to save CPS, not having to do more plants and everything. You're going to save not having to pay $150, $180 for a smog check to get your car done every year. It's a lot of savings that's going to come along with it. So I just wanted to add that in there. I'm sorry, Reed. I didn't mean that.
No, thank you. That's very good clarification. All right. Let's see. Jack, you're next.
Yes,
Where's Jack? There you are.
right here. Rick had just a couple of questions I want to get clear. I'm going to wait and make my decision at the end as well. Could you just tell me again what we're spending per month, per person, or per household? And then what again is option 1, 2, and 3 compared to that?
So if we can pull up the slide deck real quick, and we go to slide 10. I believe you're asking how much would residential customers pay? And so if you look at that top line, we've called it here monthly bill impact. And that's the $2.50, $3.50, or $5 based on the option. What I was trying to clarify earlier is customers currently, our current recovery is right about $3.50 based on, prior year's expenses. So we would, if we moved to option 3, that would be $1.50 incrementally higher than what they're experiencing today. And if we went the other way, it would be $1 savings if we went to option 1. You're welcome.
Let me mention one thing here. It's in the fine print down there, and it's also in the one of the slides. Maybe it's attachment. The charge is per kilowatt. Okay, it's a flat fee per kilowatt. So it goes up or down with your usage. So that is an average, okay? And I think that average is a little over 1,000 kilowatts a month. Just so we'll keep that in mind, okay?
Hey, Reed, on that point, I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt you.
All right, you didn't interrupt me.
I have heard the feedback from this body and from my board and from city council, for that matter, on the need to educate our customers that they're paying for this. So starting last Friday and throughout this week, in advance of our board vote, every customer will get a letter, commercial, residential, saying, you know, here's what the program is and here's what you spent on an annual basis last year. So I just want to point that out. I agree with you. I am trying to lead this company as transparently as I possibly can, and I think it was a good suggestion, and I appreciate Deanna and our leadership team for stepping up and getting those letters out as quickly as they did, because I do think that, you know, whatever your opinion is, you know, we're not trying to ramrod anything, but we've been dealing with this issue for years. And all we're looking for is direction and trying to get away from kicking the can down the road on just extending our old program. I want step one to end, and whatever the future holds as of July 31st. And that's really what we're asking for, because I've got a board that, you know, that's struggled with this for a while now, and I'm asking them to make a call. Good, bad, right or wrong, whatever they think, I'm asking them to make a call, you know, next Monday. So I appreciate you all very much.
Rudy, just a point of clarification. In the letter, when you send that out, are you going to tell them what the average customer pays, what they pay?
They are what that customer paid.
Okay, just trying to understand.
Specific, it's a specific individual customer letter.
Okay, that's fine, just as long as we understand that. I didn't know who the they was. Okay. Thank you. Jack, okay, Wayne? Wayne, go ahead.
I've already used my time, but my vote would be for the one that removes the most carbon. I'm confused with 1 and 3 and 4, but option 3 from the chart that removes the most carbon, that's my vote.
Well, the best I can understand the slides, that's option 4C. That's the 100 million a year. Did I get that wrong? I stand corrected, no correction. Okay. 4C. All right. Tony Edwards.
First of all, I want to say this, that I support the leadership of CPS Energy. I think that from my perspective, CPS Energy is the largest municipally owned gas electric combined utility in America. I would safely say, in my estimation, that they do enough study to discern what other utilities do all across the country, because I think it would be incumbent on the leadership to do that. And so I want to first say that I do support the leadership, and I also support the thousands of employees who work for CPS that try to make a difference in the lives of all the customer classes here in San Antonio. I will also say that if I would also recommend, among the recommendations, one is that we CPS develop programs that has at its core employees that go out and be a part of the weatherization efforts. I think that when people see employees giving back who work for CPS, it has a tremendous benefit that it suggests that employees are in the game as well. So I just throw that out there. I think I'm going to go out and tell you right now where my vote is. I'm going to support option 3, the $100 million option. And I support that because one, it does increase the average bill, $5 per month, but the advantages that it provides in terms of weatherization efforts and all different kinds of environmental components is, in my estimation, the right way to go. I want to also say this thing too about this multifamily. I think if you grew up in the inner city, you realize that there are a lot of houses that don't look like apartments. They got little places where people live. And if you look at census tracts like 1302, 1303, inner city census tracts, you're going to find that some of the most inefficient housing stock happens to be houses with poor insulation. So I just think that it's really important for us to really understand that as we try to discern what CPS is trying to do, that we really understand the language. It's not like when you see multifamilies, it's near Elm Creek or somewhere. We're talking about a lot of inner city housing that tremendously is in need of having energy assistance. Lots of landlords or people who just may have inherited a piece of house and try to provide that service to families. So my vote is going to be option 3, the $100 million. I also would encourage those of us who are members of RAC to consider being a part of the REAP, Residential Assistant Leadership effort, by making financial contributions to programs that benefit inner cities, because that too does help, because you can identify certain segments of communities that you'd like to see your financial assistance go to that will help people, in essence, become advantaged by the $5 increase. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Michael Sanchez? No, I don't remember Michael being in the roll call. So, Dee Dee, you're next.
Thank you. I believe in the STEP program. I always have, and have always, advocated for something stronger. So, and I appreciate, y'all working on an option 3 because the board asked for it too. We know energy efficiency saves customers money. We know that it prevented us from building another plant, and we have to know that energy efficiency is helping us reduce stress on the grid, and at this time we really need to reduce the stress on the grid. This past weekend 6 power plants were failing, and these are some of the things that we can do to help. But I am leaning towards option 3 for this. Y'all have answered some questions on the FAQ sheet and in these conversations. I do have more, which I will send with my my comments to the board and some recommendations. I just still have excuse me, concern about implementation. I have a concern that I want to make sure that we are really committed to addressing equity and helping the low-income customers. I guess after whatever route this goes with the board, let's say they do pick an option, whichever one, I would just like more details on how this, especially potential new programs, like what is that really going to look like specifically? And I know that we may not have those answers right now, but I think it's important pretty soon after a vote that we know how it's going to be implemented. There's quite a few administrative and marketing dollars in this, excuse me. And I'd like to see, like, how are we going to reach those customers that need it the most? Those are my comments.
Okay, let me, I'm circling back on everybody here, not because I'm not able to hear. I just want to make sure I put it down right. So is to extend the current problem and continue to study. Is that correct?
I don't, if we need to continue to study, I would like to know exactly how it's going to be implemented. I'm not sure what there is to study.
Well, okay, contemplate, whatever word you want to put there. it doesn't matter. I mean,
It does matter.
no, it doesn't matter what word you put there. It's your word.
Right.
You didn't let me finish. You put the word there, but if yours, and I assume
I'm
you,
voting for option 3, 100
Okay.
million.
okay,
Does that help?
100 million, number 3. Okay.
Okay.
4C. Okay, that's why, look, I know y'all think I'm being too difficult here. Do you have a question or something, or? Well, 4A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4C. Yeah, that's the one they're using. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. 4C. Thank you, Dee. All right. Kurt?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. Well, it was a good discussion.
Kurt, turn on your video, please.
Okay. Am I on? Yeah, I guess I'm on. Okay. I am inclined to vote in favor of extending the current program and continuing to study, I guess is a good word as any, because I think enough valid questions have been raised and not, at least to my understanding, fully answered on the issues like the really the effectiveness of programs in assisting particular lower income people. If we could get more granularity around that rather than aggregate numbers on how it's helping, and also on the multifamily housing issue, I think there's some valid questions that have been raised around that, and I understand why multifamily is being within the scope here, but I don't think I fully understand the answers that I've heard to the questions that have raised about that. And on the other hand, I wouldn't discontinue the current program because although, as I've now learned, the original thinking was around eliminating the need for another power plant way back when, and that is not exactly the issue we face today, although we do have, as people have said, a stress system. We have a different set of issues, I think, around emissions and around really affordability too, because just outside of the CPS world, and people are under a lot of stress right now with inflation. I think we could be facing a higher risk of recession. And all of these things are going to affect lower income people the most. So again, more granularity about how programs are helping those folks, and some of the questions that have been raised today are still kind of open in my mind. But I think the effectiveness of some of these programs is been proven enough so that we should continue to do it. But then we should further consider some of the questions that have been raised today.
Okay, Kurt. So I've got you as continue the current program,
right,
and reevaluate, study, try to figure out what now more needs to be done. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what's really working, particularly for low income people, and also some of the questions around does CPS and its ratepayers have to do it all? I mean, there's a federal infrastructure program that's been alluded to. There are other options that maybe should be more on the table that we don't control, but that maybe are relevant to the decisions we're making.
Thank you, Kurt. Okay, next up is Femi. There you go.
All right. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to withhold my selection until I hear from all other members. I don't know how many more are left, but I want to get a very clear picture of where everyone stands just from the questions. So I'm going to also ask a few questions. I guess my first question is just really a clarification. Rick talked about something about a prior verification before some dollars are released. I don't understand that. Can you please explain what exactly that prior verification means, or how it's going to be sequenced?
Yes. So what I was trying to explain there was that in the accountability procedures that are established in the ordinance, we expend the funds and then are only able to recover them following a verification process. So, for example, we completed a fiscal year, January 31st, 2022, just several months ago. So we completed that program year on January 31st. We then begin a verification process using a third-party consultant who will come in and verify that all of the savings, all of the projects that we claim have savings attached to them, have in fact achieved those savings. And so that is then published in a report, which we get usually around the May timeframe. We just got the report for the year that ended in January. We send that report to the city, they review it, and then once they're comfortable with the results and give us, an approval, then we can establish the recovery factor that goes into effect usually July 1st. And so we begin the recovery July 1st for funds that were expended last year. So there is a effectively almost like an 18-month delay, because then we will recover those funds over the following 12 months.
And is this the process you follow currently?
That is the process that we have covered, that we have used for the last.
Have you ever had a situation where you could not justify recovering the funds that you have expended?
No, we've never had that issue. And I do want to point out the reports I'm speaking of those are the reports right up there. So going back to the very beginning, fiscal year 2009, we've never had any issues in terms of like not being able to get an approval to then begin the recovery process.
Okay, but in the meantime, while all that is going on, the customers are paying into this pot of money that's waiting to be disbursed to you upon verification, or not?
No. So in the bill that goes out this month, right, we are recovering for a prior year that has already been verified, right? We do not begin recovery on the expenses for the year we just ended until the verification is complete. So there is no fund that people pay into. It's only once everything has been approved that we can then begin recovery.
Yeah, okay, that helps me, because then I understand when we start to ask about, the so-called $5, which, as Reed clearly said, this is not $5 that everybody pays. It is based on consumption. And I think that's something that hopefully the letter that's going to go out, which I'm glad we're doing, will clarify, or the letters, and everybody can see exactly what they're paying into this program. And essentially, hopefully, I hope they don't get a sticker shock, because obviously I remember back during the climate action program, we had a situation where there was a poll, or there was a survey that you all did, in which you actually put and asked customers how much would they be willing to pay. And of course, the number was quoted, I think it was 5, 10, or whatever. At that time, I'm sure those who were taking the poll did not know that they were essentially pointing to an average. Somebody who was making or paying hundreds of thousands, or maybe let's say $100 bill or whatever that bill would be, would not know exactly what that $5 meant relative to what they were consuming. But I'm glad that we are able to now clarify that. And hopefully the letter will also speak more to consumption versus how much customers are paying into the program. As I said, I'm going to withhold my selection, but I wanted to clarify that because I think there are a lot of unanswered questions. Rudy said it, there's work to be done. And I feel that those questions need to be resolved or answered before we can actually come to a conclusion as to where this program is going to go and how it's going to go forward. But as I said, I do have some thoughts that I'm walking through, and I'm essentially building in real time what everybody is saying into what would be my final selection. So thank you for the clarification, Rick.
Anything else, Femi?
Not for now.
Dana?
Thank you, Reed. A couple of procedural comments, and one of them to correct an email that I sent out to everybody, a few days ago, quoting a number which was in my memory about how much percentage of the STEP program went to solar. And I think I said 50 or 60%, and it seems like it's 20. So, but my comments on the rest of it would be the same. I'll continue that point in a minute. But I had a thought here in thinking about where CPS is now from just a situational point of view. We just got through raising rates to pay for half of the bad debt in the winter storm. I thought it would be a better idea, instead of going immediately back into not only continuing the rate step program, but potentially increasing it, to try to figure out how to pay off the rest of the bad debt first. So maybe that's not part of what we're trying to do here, but I think it'd be a good idea to do that from a company point of view. As far as the program itself, I initially was just pretty much against all this because I was not comfortable with any of the verifications that were presented to us. But I certainly can understand there has been some good done, changing light bulbs and other things that are pretty obvious. But my comments on the solar situation is you have to remember that it's not CPS paying for this. It's one neighbor paying for the other neighbor, so to speak. And what that person, the benefit of somebody who's putting on a solar panel, the rates go down. And some, according to Brattle, the rates go down enough, maybe not in all cases, but in some, to make that customer a cost center to CPS instead of a revenue generator. And that doesn't seem fair in any sense. And it seems like it skews the numbers for how you're reducing your power and not needing to build a future power plant. And so I think you need more study on that because on the face of it, you might have reduced your power needs, but you've increased the risk to the whole San Antonio system at peak demands in the winter and summer. And it's evidence of that. Even this week, where we get warnings to, we might have some power problems, and that's just going to get worse if we keep doing that. And so I think more study needs to be done on that aspect of it. And another comment that I've been thinking about, if in fact we define our energy savings and postponing power plant generations by doing such things as weather stripping on various houses, and it saves people money, in other words, it's cost effective. I think the Brattle report also said that, it may not be, but let's just assume that it is. Wouldn't it be better for CPS to at least weather strip some high bills instead of low bills? Because if you have a $500 bill instead of a $50 bill and you improve it by 20%, you're saving $100, and there's no way you could save $100 by completely weather stripping a house that's paying $50 or $100 a month. Now that might sound apostate, but it should be looked at. You want to really save money and save potential needs for power. Well, they say the average customer bill is $100, and they use that in the data, and they're saying, all right, and in this new program, the average bill is going to cost for option one $3.63. All right. So since it's on a kilowatt basis, the first time they really told us that, so a bill that's 4 times higher is going to pay 4 times more. It's going to be $15 instead of $3.63 for a $500 bill. No, I'm saying it is. It is. But the study ought to be, won't it also benefit everybody, including low income people, if the if the power needs and the costs are reduced, and you could, I'm saying theoretically, you could do the same thing to somebody who's paying $500. I'm not saying you should, but I think we should do the study. If you're going to save somebody $100 a month, there's no way you could save somebody who's paying $100 a month $100. Okay,
All right.
well,
Let's
we'll go on. So I'm basically, since I know there is some good in this program, I'm going to say number 2. I want to suspend it and hurry and do the more study on this.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read Jim's because he's out of the country. And this is a text I received from him. I vote no to continue STEP in any manner other than to underwrite thermostats adjustable during stress times in summer/winter. Okay. I don't know whether that's number 1 or it's number 2. Anybody want to give me guidance? Well, that's all right. There's a lot of those, but I mean, everybody has one of those. We're all unique. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to put it down as 2. That way I've got somebody that's also looked at. Okay. The next one up is Anita. I believe she's on somewhere. There she is. She's
Yes,
coming.
hi, everybody.
There you go. Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you. So, my recommendation is to continue to invest in energy efficiency. I think the math and the data are kind of self-evident. I wanted to say that, extreme weather, energy burden and poverty, inequity in infrastructure, and the variable rising cost of fuel makes all of us extremely vulnerable. Historically, and we all know this, our community has faced great inequity. And because of this, we have not all had equal access to power and programs and technology. And because of this, our underserved communities are disproportionately impacted. Electric fuel, we've learned, electric fuel is our highest cost, and inefficient customers drive that cost. Energy efficiency, we have learned, it allows us to avoid generating power or buying it on the open market. And that allows us to invest in the efficiency of our customers, which will help to reduce our overall costs while also helping to prepare our community for extreme weather events through weatherization and efficiency programs. There's a great divide between what's technically available and what's economically feasible or accessible to individual families. I believe that this program, through equitable design, can help close that gap and improve the quality of life of the customers that we serve, while reducing their costs and while preparing them for extreme heat. And that's going to, reducing the impact on our underserved communities. And so I wanted to also say, thank you to CPS Energy and consultants for listening to the community, because this refocus on equity, I think, is going to be one of the most important discussions, most important programs that has come forward in recent times. I serve on this committee because I love our city. And as many of us are, I'm concerned about the future of San Antonio. And I will tell you that I have seen firsthand the impact that these programs can have in the lives of our low-income customers through energy savings and increased comfort. As San Antonio has one of the oldest and largest housing authorities in the United States. And I think they're one of the largest property owners. Most of them are multifamily. And they're old and aging. And we're also one of the largest markets for low-income multifamily buildings. Reducing new generation needs through energy efficiency programs, it can enhance our local resiliency while saving hundreds of millions of dollars in avoided fuel and capacity costs at a fixed cost. And this is also our opportunity to invest in the quality of life of our shareholders, who are the people of San Antonio, and these are the people that we serve. Again, I want to thank the staff and our consultants. I support option 3, which I think would be 4C, the $100 million a year. because of the savings and the value that it brings to the community. And I'll just say this, what we don't save today, we are going to pay a much higher cost in the very near future. The last I heard, it was somewhere just south of 3,000 megawatts of power that we're going to have to be replacing in the very near future. So programs like this can make a huge impact in our community. I just wanted to say I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be on this committee and to serve. You know, and I think we're facing a historic moment, and I hope that we use it to prepare for the future. And I have hope and faith that we will. So thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Okay, Dr. Cantu.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Reed, for your leadership and all the comments from the RAC, and CPS. Thank you for your leadership and your the information you've provided. I've got two questions. One is at the very beginning, and you said that CPS has said that previously, that because of the authority, the current program will end in July. Who is that authority? Are we talking about City Council? Are we talking about someone else? And whoever can answer that question from CPS.
Dr. Cantu, you know, our process for, you know, getting direction from our policymakers is the board has to give us direction, which makes its way into an ordinance for council to approve, which sets out the general guidelines.
Okay.
The verification process is a verification process through the Office of Public Utility under Ben Gorzel. So his team actually runs the verification process and gives us the up or down vote, just like they do with the rest of our fuel expenses. They have to approve that pass through on the customer's bill. So Ben and his team give us the authority to actually implement the fuel factor charge.
Okay, thank you. Then in option 2, which is, I'm sorry, number 3, and then 4B. So number 3 is to extend the program as it is right now, which would not have any additional financial impact on the customer. And then 4B, we're adopting a new program with additional, I think it was 350 and an impact. Is that correct? Is that what I saw previously? And you could go back to the slide where it talks about monthly impact.
Dr. Cantu, I think you're right.
Okay.
If you extend the current program from what Rudy just told me earlier, if you extend the current program, we're spending about 70 million on that. And they're proposing to get authority to spend 70 million on a new program that Rick just described to us. So both extend the current program and study and recommend option 4B on our sheet are both $70 million.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There's lots of folks here that's smarter than I am. So
that's what I
hear no
was.
correction. So go ahead.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So again, I do appreciate the comments, and I am a big believer in energy efficiency. I think energy efficiency is important, and certainly for a growing city of San Antonio. However, I also realize that I'm speaking from a place of privilege, and that privilege gives me the opportunity to look at the long term and see how it plays out and look at it strategically. However, I know that we do have a lot of people that are not in that position because of economic constraints. And with that in mind, I will vote for, I guess it would be 4B, which would be similar to 3.
Okay, that's you would vote for the second option, the CPS proposed, which is 4A on ours. And okay.
Oh, not 4A.
4B. I'm sorry.
4B.
Yeah,
Yes.
4B.
That's it.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I'll try to make this really brief. First of all, the first time this program started, as y'all might know, that's 12, 13 years ago. I was still around then. or maybe I'm still around now. But the point is, we had a problem. We thought we were going to have to build a plant. We addressed it with this. Even the discounted flow of funds justified it. It was very specific target at solving that problem, and that is don't build a new plant. We just come through all the problems with a nuclear plant, and we just had to recover $400 million. Some of you might not remember that were spent before we realized that that was not an economic project. So, and at that time, we allowed it to go through on the fuel adjustment. There's a couple of problems with that. I didn't agree with it then, couldn't stop it then, don't agree with it now. I believe that we need a program that is approved by the city council for an exact amount in a rate case. I think people look at rates differently than they do something that flows through the fuel adjustment. And I think if it's on a energy use basis, it does come through on a percentage basis. So second of all, I'm concerned that the audits are much after the event. And some of them, if you look at the Frontier report, those reports had to do a lot of desk audits. These were not numbers that were accumulated as you went through the process. And that's continued to concern me. I do believe, obviously, in energy conservation and demand management. I've spent a big part of my career saving energy or trying to. So I do not have a problem with that. It's just that we accumulated information as we went so we could make adjustments. So I'm concerned that the programs not only are not in the rate, they do not accumulate information on a monthly basis from the activity, and therefore you can't make corrections and figure out if what you're doing is working. I'm also concerned that it imposes a disproportionate cost on lower income people. There's just no doubt, as was mentioned, a lot of these folks live in apartments. They can't take advantage of this. They still are winding up paying for it. The fourth thing I'm concerned about on all these programs, and Rudy said it, and I'll be clear, I don't think they've done bad work. I just don't agree with them, okay? And these are scattered programs. These are a lot of programs, okay? And I think I was given the number by Rick that there was 52 different programs during the 10 or 12 years this went on. And I think that's also programs that you had to go get. You had to go take the initiative to get. And a lot of the folks just weren't going to do that. Unless you were, company and a corporation, you could go get that stuff. So I'm going to, I look at the situation as one that's got to focus on the problem of the day. And the problem of the day is our low income, our disadvantaged population. We have tremendous problems, and we have to focus on that. And I believe we have to focus a program on that. I believe when you focus on so many different things, I don't think you actually see and adjust for it. So I would want a rate that's approved, an amount in the rate, so we'll know each year how much it is. We'll collect it as we go along. I believe that it should benefit only the fifth quintile. If you go back to the Brattle studies, they put the fifth and fourth quintiles starting from the bottom, not going up. And really, the fifth quintile is where our disadvantaged people are. I also say we need some element of finding census tracts so that we can not only look at the income of the individual, but the area that individual is living in. And then the final thing is that I've never seen people that are working and trying to make a living that really wanted a handout. They want to contribute back. So to the extent that when we did something for these folks, and my thoughts still have to be developed because I haven't really seen a good program for low-income people. It can be weatherization, it can be education, it can be, there's all kinds of things, appliance replacement. But we need to figure out what really works in our community and our disadvantaged areas for our very Our families are just trying to make it. And so I believe that they would agree that if we do something to help them, they would allow a thermostat to be put on the wall that we could adjust in demand periods, coincidence demands, and therefore they're giving back. The final thing is, if you look at all of these programs and you really think about it, the programs need to be proactive. One of the concerns I've had time and again is that a program banner is held up. They want to see who salutes it, who has the time to come down, stop, fill it out, go to a meeting, fill it out. Most of these folks are working a couple of jobs just to make it, and they don't have time for that. We need, as I can't remember whether it was Wayne or Anthony said, we need people from CPS that go out, identify these areas and these folks and say, look, we think you need help and we're here to help you. So I'd like it to be a little more proactive. Putting on one of these things in the options here, I guess it would be option 2. I would stop this current program because I think it did what it was supposed to do. I'm not saying it didn't, but it's done. Put a fork in it, and let's try to find a program that's very focused on our biggest problem, I think, in this community, and that's the helping the low-income people in the disadvantaged area. Okay, now we can go back and have a few minutes here.
I have a question for you.
We have just a second. Let me finish my sentence. We have a few minutes here for a few people, as you are getting ready to do, Dana, to ask questions. We need to reserve about 5 minutes because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people still to vote. Okay. All right.
Using your energy expertise and the fact that you've been involved for such a long time, would it have been a pretty good, and it's theoretical, a good idea back when we started the STEP program to say, do the STEP program and build another facility?
No, I don't think it would have been, because if we had built another facility at that point in time, I'm afraid we would have built a coal plant, because that's what they were talking about, all right? And because when I had to do the numbers, they were making us use $8.40 for gas. So no, I think building an additional plant 12 years ago was not the right thing. No.
Okay, so then we went through the winter storm, and whatever happened, it cost us $1 billion. So is it a good idea now to maybe do some type of STEP program which helps the people that really need the help and build another plant too?
Well, that's the discussion we'll start next Thursday, which is the generation planning.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Still got a few more minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm listening to what you're saying about trying to get a program. What I found is usually there's not one single answer to a solution. There's usually a multiple that go into making the solution a whole. I've heard, for example, about doing something with the thermostat. What good does it do to do something with thermostats when the wind blows through the house and it's hooked up to a 10-SEER air conditioning unit? So there's a whole lot of things that go into it. Now, up to 2008, you could do just about anything. Put a felt wrap around the house and throw siding on it, single pane windows and so on. Now, when you go through the city, you have to do calculations for conservation and everything. You have to put double pane windows instead of single. You have to do at least 14 SEER. You got to do R30. So, to me, this STEP program is more for stuff that's existing. It's not necessarily something that you got to do to new construction, because the city is already pushing that through on the other side. So you're not going to build anything like you used to. You're going to have to build something that's going to be conservative. And then before you get certification, then you have to do an airflow test through that. And if you don't pass that, you don't get certification. You got to go back and reseal. So it's a multi-pronged plan to get there. The city is doing that, so hopefully the problem's not getting larger, but on the other side, you have all these older houses that need some type of help.
Okay, I agree, and that's why I said once we've entered into an agreement with them to help them, then we also ask for a thermostat. All right, Al, I think you're gonna have to mute yours or pick up some static from you, okay?
Okay, well, I do have an opinion.
Yeah, sure, just, let me know. Go ahead.
Okay, nothing in what I have, when I voice an opinion on something should be interpreted as negative on the management or operations of CPS Energy. I would fault, the city of San Antonio for unfunded mandates on CPS. And building code is a good place to start, to carry on this program. Now, I said to suspend and study. I think if we suspend the program, we'll hurry up and start the program again in a different format, that would greatly benefit, the LMI client that we're talking about. But I think if we continue it, it'll be a soft start on everything else. But if we discontinue it only with the goal of restarting it fresh and new, I think that's the way to go. I yield my time.
Oh, thank you, Al. Okay, now we got 10 minutes, and we have 5 more folks to give their vote. I will start in the same order we did before. The first person that asked to wait was Peter Onfrey.
Thank you, Reed. Over the weekend, after reviewing the proposed options, I was considering voting to suspend the program for additional study because I didn't see a legitimate commitment to focus on the LMI. Well, I'd like to thank Rudy, Jonathan Tejerina, Rick Luna for answering my questions and providing more clarity. I'd also like to thank Reed, Femi, Didi, and Dana for your insightful input and feedback. I vote to support option 4B, which is a $70 million program. And of course, if you heard, I support the entire benefit, but I also want to reiterate the opportunity. And also I want to thank Deanna for all the work that you're doing in community outreach. It's great work you're doing, and I think that's what's really going to make this work. And again, I'll share that solution with you as far as some supplemental support with infrastructure funding and working through the Office of Sustainability and see if we can get some traction there. With more funding to offset, I like it to stay the same rate now while we try to find more funding to supplement and add. Thank you.
Excuse me, let me interrupt the flow here. I understand that Councilwoman Villagrán is online now, maybe. If that's the case, she said she had a comment to make. Maybe no more? Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, we didn't catch the right time on that. Okay. All right. Okay, I would hope that someone could contact the councilwoman and give her an answer to her question. Is that, I'm sure there's somebody that talks to the city council. Okay, already, she's not on there, so it won't do any good to answer it now. She needs a call. Oh, yeah. Okay. I have another event. I want to thank the RAC committee for their work. As a ratepayer, I want to know how much in total is my bill going to increase. 3.85% plus $5, is that between 12 or 22 month increase? Do we have a dollar amount? Okay, she must have had to leave before some of those explanations were made. The increase depends on which one of these options, obviously, and then it depends, the second factor, it depends on how much you use, your consumption. And so you basically can think they're going to take the total amount, divide by what they think is going to be the total consumption, and if you use some percent of that total utilization, you get it. As an example, let me finish. As an example, if you use 1,000 kilowatts, okay, and the charge is, I don't know, so many cents per kilowatt hour, it comes out to that average number, okay? And it depends on what you use. All right, Dana, sorry, your question or answer or? Well, if your consumption doesn't change, your part of your bill that relates to this will not change. Now,
Well, that was our question.
you can't tell her exactly how much because you got the fuel pass through on the fuel, but you can answer the question in relationship to what is the charge off of STEP. STEP is going to be an amount, one of these three amounts, and that's an annual amount. So how many ever kilowatts we consume, our customers consume, and then that gets down to what it is per kilowatt, and then you multiply by the kilowatts that month you're using. And actually, it will change if your consumption changes.
Yes, of course. You can
Yeah.
reference this letter that Rudy's
Yeah,
tried to send.
I haven't, we don't have that letter, but yes, that's right. Okay. Sorry to make that interruption, and I apologize to the councilwoman. I didn't get back to her in time. The next one is Michael Kinnick.
It's on. Okay, so in the long run, I would love to be able to support spending $70 to $100 million a year on these types of programs, and I think we can get there. But for now, my vote's going to have to be suspend the current program for additional study until we can better balance these things and make sure we're targeting the right communities, and even within that community, are we spending the money in the right areas with the biggest return on investment? I haven't seen that we've really tried to prioritize those things. So again, my vote today would be to recommend suspending the current program for additional study.
Thank you, Michael. Jack, you're next.
Thank you, Reed. I too, like Michael and others, I support programs wholeheartedly, particularly those that help everyone. There's a win-win for both CPS and for our customers and for all the users. But there's still a lot of questions unanswered, I think. And so for that, I vote for number 2, suspend the current program for additional study.
Thank you, Jack. I'm sorry, I skipped over Anne Marie. So you're up next. Thank you.
It's okay, Reed. I won't hold it against you.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody again too. All the my colleagues on the committee, Rudy, your team. You guys do an excellent job, and you hear us. When you hear us and you answer our questions, and you've even taken some of the things we've said into your documentation and have said this helped. So I appreciate that. I've finally found the FAQs in my junk email. So I got to 8 and my question was answered at 9. So I feel like I was a little bit at a handicap. I also appreciate the transparency, and I know you've taken on a Herculean task to educate us. And it's hard to bring us up to speed and then ask us to make decisions. I think we've had some great ideas from the floor, but we're not here to reinvent the wheel. And unfortunately, we have to deal with what's in front of us. We can't, and I'm going to trust that CPS will continue to refine and identify things as we go. I hope that if you get an approval, it's not just going to be pull forward without refinement. Based on the other information that I've heard here and where I was planning to go anyway, I feel comfortable with my poll being registered at 4B, which is option 2 of $70 million per year. But I do agree with Reed that you guys need to do a better job on identifying to focus more on the LMI folks who are going to benefit from this and really utilize it. Right.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Okay, Dr. Femi.
Yes, I guess I'm the last person to to give my selection, and I'm going to point to two things that I heard today. One was what Rudy said. There's a lot of work to be done. There are many unanswered questions. And another thing that Anne-Marie said was we're missing the forest for the trees. I say that because we're taking step almost in isolation. So if that's the tree that's blocking us from seeing the rest of the forest. And it's not so much of a high level, but the fact that we're looking at, we should be looking at step in conjunction with other trees, in quotes, other trees being generation planning, being rate structuring, the things that are even before us on this committee. So my vote or my selection is to suspend the current program for additional study, but the study specifically should be in the context of what does STEP mean relative to the generation planning and rate structuring that's even before us on this committee. So it's very specific. The additional study should not be third party or anybody, like we've all done and seen their reports, but it's really about us on this committee saying, what does STEP, how does that fit into generation planning? How does it fit into the rate structuring, the very charges that are before us on this committee? And that's why I vote for option 2, to suspend and to conduct additional studies within the RAC on those 3 subjects I just spoke about. Thank you.
Thank you, Femi. Okay, now, let's just take a few minutes. I know everybody wants to know, well, where'd that come out? Well, the only thing, there's 2 things we were unanimous in the polling on, and that is nobody wanted to just discontinue and forget it. So I think that surely needs to be encouraging to people that everybody here believes that there is value in this. The other thing is there was really no votes for option 4A, which is the lower amount, which is $50 million a year. And there are 2 individuals, Michael and Councilman Villagrán, that did not vote. So if you look at the numbers for the option 2, which is suspend and continue to do study, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had 8. Okay, there's 2 that said extend the current program and study. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 that said adopt the new program as proposed by CPS at 70 million level, and there's 4 at the 100 million level. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if my math's right. Okay, that's 8, 10, 18. 18. Let's see. We've got, I'm going to introduce Christopher here in just a minute. Let me make sure. 18, 19, 20, 21. Yep, Pot's right. Okay. Now, let me introduce to you Christopher Fullerton, who has been nominated to join our group by Dr. Romero. He will be approved on Monday's meeting. I want to thank you, Christopher, for coming. If you have anything you'd like to say at this time, please do.
Trying to get in the habit here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's wonderful to be here with so many knowledgeable and experienced colleagues, and I already am learning a great deal from you. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. And clearly we all land on different parts of the spectrum here, but it seems to me that it's important to commend the leadership of CPS because they have a challenge here across the spectrum. They're trying to juggle a variety of goals and objectives here in terms of dealing with individual customers, with neighborhoods, with the city writ large, and with regional, national, and global issues tied to climate change and adaptation. And it's a lot to pack into a single program covering 5 years. But executed properly, I think it can do a lot in all of those categories. And if we keep the individuals in mind who would benefit from, say, weatherization, we're also preparing them for some of the inevitable changes that are already baked into our system as we this year are experiencing longer, hotter summers, more intense heat wave events, and weatherization will help prepare them for that, since they will be the most vulnerable, both in terms of the environmental consequences and the costs that might be triggered by that. So even with the system up and running and power flowing, if you don't have insulation, if you don't have weatherization, then we can talk about averages here. But if your kilowatt hour consumption is super high, not because you live in a large house, but because you don't have weatherization and insulation, then you can be a very large individual consumer, excuse me, and weatherization can help buffer some of those impacts. So it's a wonderful program if we can figure out the best way to execute it. I would ask, excuse me, we've discussed a variety of options, including extension, suspension, discontinuing, starting a new program. It sounds like, fortunately, to discontinue is off the table at this point. To suspend, though, I think is to miss out on the possibility of incremental savings. And a lot of this is about incremental accomplishments, incremental improvements in conservation and insulation, especially in existing housing stocks. So if we can continue to push that little by little, day by day, month by month, year by year, whether that's a continuance of the existing program or the beginning of a new one, we don't miss out on that, excuse me, on that opportunity. So I hope that we don't choose inaction, because inaction itself is a decision, and it's kicking the can down the road when things will be more expensive and more costly to fix. So I would also offer a couple of examples from the water world.
Go ahead.
And I'll be quick. I'll be quick. In the water world, oftentimes you see a question of conservation versus a new reservoir. And conservation can be that next new reservoir. Instead of actually building it physically, the ability to retract your consumption levels, even while you're growing, allows you to meet multiple objectives. And Tucson has done that. Even Las Vegas has done that. So you can grow while conserving. And I think we can apply some of those lessons in power as well. So thank you for being.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't miss somebody up here that, oh, Kurt, you've got your hand up, and then I've got some closing comments real quick. Kurt?
It was answered. You can ignore me, Reed.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, remember, and I remind everybody of this all the time, we have no authority. That's the board and the city council. We have no power to run anything. That's Rudy and his folks. All we are is input. And to that point, anyone that would like their comments, their statements included in the board packet, please provide them to Ann before the end of the day on Friday, if earlier, if possible. Okay? So I'm saying that because I know folks have a lot of stuff they want to say. It is very helpful, I think, for people to speak as individuals, because y'all, each one of you represent a very diverse group of the city, and the board needs to hear all of your comments. So I would encourage y'all to take the time, send them to Ann, and they'll be included in the board package. Is there anything else? Yes, go ahead, Tony. Yes, and I want that as opposed to this is the vote, okay? Because again, I've been very careful to say we don't speak as a body, we speak as individuals. So this sheet, I hope, will be provided to the board, and behind it will be your individual comments.
Reed,
Okay?
we'll do that, Reed. We'll prepare kind of a synopsis, and then whatever, written comments you all have, we'll put that behind it. So be glad to do that.
Yeah, I think that's important because again, what he's saying is he would like to see some sheet like this where each members of the board sees where each one of us came down on this. And I think that's important. It's another good idea because certain board members and certain council people have been the ones that put obviously people on this board. They're probably going to want to know where their position is, okay? If they can't get to them and talk to them. Is there anything else before we adjourn? Remember, yep.
This is Avalita. Could you go over the vote totals again?
Yes, again, not so much on total, but what individuals. But if you looked at nobody picked option one, which was just discontinue it and forget about doing anything on energy conservation demand management. 8 people voted to suspend it, and what I'm hearing from the people is quickly study some new options. The third one is extend the current program. Well, and so there was 8 on suspend and study. There's 2 that says keep the current program going but study and try to come up with what's going to be more acceptable to these individuals. Nobody voted for option 4A, which is $50 million level. 4 people voted for option 4B, which is the $70 million level, which is at the same level, well, it's the same level pretty much we are now, as you pointed out, Dr. Cantu. And then 4 people voted to enhance the program to $100 million. And the vote works because we had 18 that voted, 2 that didn't vote, and 1 that's in a position that's not filled yet. So the number's right, 21, it checks. Any other questions on that? We're adjourned. Thank you.